that weakness, rest in peace. I learned about the recipe when I was younger, recklessly. Now I'm chasing the glory, gonna be fine. Working so hard, matter of time. Never give up, how we define. Taking my chances, breaking a climb. I'ma show them how it's done. On the top level we run. For Osiris, for my son. We show up and pack a punch. This is war. We step up, we gon' never fold. This is legacy, they gon' know me when I go.
So rain down all you want, but our power is in the sun. And when our plans still align, our nation will become victorious. Swords where you stand and spit upon the ground. But when those horns sound off, pray to the Lord, you've been righteous now. I say rain down all you want, but our power is in the sun. And when our planets do align, our nation will become victorious.
This is war, we don't stop, what's in store, where we start, we deploy. They don't wanna see us win, so we gon' show them all the voice. To the top, we enjoy, when my partners don't avoid. Want the glory, silence noise, here for life, made a choice.
The smoke clears the air. I'm the only one standing. The darkness lifts. There lies the freedom in front of me. Oh, so I will start on this day. The rise of kingdoms to come, and we will no longer be named by the weather above. So rain down all you want, but our power is in the sun. And when our planets do align, our nation will become victorious.
Let it be, all that weakness, rest in peace. I learned about the recipe when I was younger, recklessly. Now I'm chasing the glory, gonna be fine. Working so hard, matter of time. Never give up, how we define. Taking my chances, breaking a climb. I'ma show them how it's done. On the top level we run. For Osiris, for my son. We show up and pack a punch. This is war, we step up, we gon' never fold. This is legacy, they gon' know me when I go.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to another amazing match coming up for Osiris League Season 6. I'm here with Bulba again for casting round 3 versus with 2244 and GV77. Bulba, how you been, man? I missed you last week, dude. As I mentioned, it was your birthday last week, man. Hope you had a good birthday.
I did. I missed you, bro. I missed you all too. And dude, it always feels weird, like just relaxing, kicking back. But man, we got an absolute banger. We started off with a banger in the beginning of today earlier between 1021 and 1v, and man, I'm excited for this. We're gonna be crowning a champion in Bastet realm. But yeah, Red, I'm excited, my friend. We're gonna be wrapping this guy up for season 6 today.
Yeah, man. You know, during the last match, GV77 came back, with a vengeance. They really did really well. Their mid game was superb. They won all arcs. I believe there's 3 arcs last round, and they took them all, man. So we'll see what W244 is going to do to counter that for this round to at least take home the ship, or is GV77 going to capitalize and maintain that momentum? But I don't know, man. I still don't know. The bets are pretty even now. So like, what are your thoughts coming to the match? Who's gonna take it in your opinion?
Just apologies. Just hearing you say kind of the description of what happened last match and kind of watching some of it as well. Kind of brings me back. I know we were talking about it in the first match that we casted together, and kind of some of the things that GV we thought should have done, and kind of if they fix, you know, whether it was their combos or the timing on the rotation. Because I remember in our first match, that first arc got chalked with GV. They were really late. You know, the second one they did win, and then the third, you know, and it kind of, if they clean that up along with some of the combinations and stuff like that. We thought that they could take match 2, so it doesn't really surprise me because they were really strong when they were there in mid. But to hear they took all 3 arcs in mid is very surprising to me. So it's going to be interesting to see between match 1 and match 2 what kind of changes are going to be made, because I know I saw a bunch being done in the 1021 and 1v1s pertaining to combos that went in middle. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they tweak it a little bit, or if they stick kind of with what they were going with earlier.
Yeah, that's a great point. The one thing to note too is that W244, even though they lost all 3 arcs, they had a 7,000 point occupation score over GV77. So they really focused on occupation this last round. But but their provision scores, even though it was 5K, was it's less than their normal average, where people were saying it was at least 6,000. So there were some tweaks on the W244 side. They still did that obelisk play in the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but
yeah,
they sent that rally, and they sent 45 cows, to the Kitori force. But GV77 countered it, man. So they were able to kind of adjust and make sure that didn't mess up their gameplay. So I'm really interested to see what W244 does, because that occupation core was nice, but they need to get that arc to be the champions. And GV77 needs to do the same thing. They need to obviously continue to maintain that strong arc game, but then also kind of even out the occupation score to really kind of ensure they have that victory. So whoever does what they need to do is going to be the crown the next champion of the realm of Bastet.
Yeah, and it's gonna be somebody new, which is always exciting. Our previous champion from last season got eliminated in the in top 4. And so we're crowning a brand new champion, which is always exciting. We have the two first ever back-to-back champions in 60 GT and 1V. So that's exciting. That's a new record that's broken. But we're going to be in Bastet today, knocking it out, seeing if we see some unique plays. I'm glad you brought that up about the break-off strategy, because I know that we commented on that previously on kind of if they were to switch that up, like which combo they should use, because it was a little bit slower and the cities were already porting in. So it'll be interesting to see if we see some gate blocks, some unique strategies. It's always interesting to see, because we're going into the younger of the 2 realms in Bastet and Sobek, and seeing, they're starting to watch film, starting to watch tape. You're starting to see the good old, it's I remember y'all strat out there when y'all were running it. I remember literally Speedy and Kai was like, don't stream our break off, and y'all full send with the CCs, and dude, it was so good. So it's fun to see teams growing and progressing into the Osiris League at such a young realm, because it just makes it more exciting for the future across all realms, just because the competition level is just constantly increasing every season. So that's always really nice to see, for sure.
Completely agree with you, man. And to the chat, make sure to like and subscribe to the Rise of Kingdoms YouTube channel, as well as myself and Bulba's channels on YouTube. We both content creators for the game, so make sure to show that love and support to us as well. But with that, I'm gonna get it off into the match.
All right, bud.
All right, everybody, we are in. So with 2 minutes left in the timer, as these teams prepare for the upcoming match. This is the match of the year for them right here. This is what they've been working towards. Waking up the early hours or late nights. This is what it comes down to, and I hope that GV77 and W244. I mean, actually, not hope, but I know they will give us a show.
Yeah, I'm honestly really excited for this one, because usually, like in Bastet and Sobek, a lot of people don't necessarily understand kind of the competition level. Like, I know we talk about it a lot, but their competition has been very good. Their timing's been very organized, and their marches are very good. So, you know, it excites me for the future of Bazta, and some of these teams are going to be moving into Anubis for sure next season.
Agreed, agreed. And another thing too that I've been noticing too, like now in the later realms, you know, like, and this takes time for people to kind of get used to, but like the timing of teleports. For those who don't know, if you see people like when the match starts and you see people coming in one by one, um, uh, like in waves, they do that because every single person where they're positioned in is very important. So like here, as you can see, like GV77, they had people teleporting in one by one, and there's a couple empty spaces in the back, and it could be because some people register as backups, and if you don't know, backups can only enter the game once the match actually starts. So a lot of these teams are really getting down these basic fundamentals to make sure, like, hey, I've been getting up at 4 a.m. or, you know, staying up to 2 in the morning to make sure we get to this point. So everything matters here, and all the little details, because timing is everything.
Yeah, and those are the little micro optimizations that we always talk about. Just because break off is actually very important, especially if you're going to have a break off strategy, similar to what W has been doing. You really like, that's what makes it hard with backups, right? If you have so many backups having to wait, just the timing of being able to jump in, instantly start sending your marches, it kind of messes with it a little bit. But in 5 seconds, Red, we are about to load into the match, and we will be crowning a champion in the next hour. So,
Good luck to both teams, and here we go. GV77 is starting off with the T1 marches, normal. We have 9 rallies going on, 4 on the side of W244, and it looks like they're all going to 2 of their obelisks and the opponent's obelisk. On the opposite side for GV77, they got those outpost rallies, man. Or just one. Just one roll. So I don't know. I'm hoping to see something unique, you know, as a spectator. But if I don't, I understand as a player.
yeah, I understand. And yeah, I'm checking out the GV marches right now. Got interesting combos going from both sides. But man, it's gonna be, you know, we got a lot of archers, your typical XYs and Nevskis. But we're seeing, you know, I saw a couple Eddies out there. I saw some Amanis. You know, we're seeing some nice variations from the norm that we're used to seeing from the other realms. Some Alexes out here pushing on the backside. I like it. But yeah, man, you know, we have the shrines and altars opening up in a couple of minutes, and that's really where, you know, we're gonna see if somebody's gonna try to sneak one or be able to get one, kind of force hands, rotating mid, for that all elusive arc that it's gonna spawn. That's been a very fun watch for sure. Those mid fights between these two teams.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point. The mid fights, and that's the key thing. The key, I guess, the key fight I'm really interested to see, because Joan, you know, the Commander Joan. For those who don't have her yet, it's definitely a big deal when it comes to Arc of Osiris. And you know, through my, you know, Wikipedia research, and you know, my conversations, you know, Joan's, you know, support skill is really helpful for the mid. It allows multiple skills to be popped off at one time, and from my understanding, it's been working great for these teams, in all realms. So I'm really interested to see how both teams utilize that meta to really, you know, take over that mid, because you have the combination with the war drums, you know, on your Trajans, with your Ethelflets, and just those giant murder balls just coming in like a hurricane. It can be really helpful. So I'm really interested to see what these teams do for that mid fight, because that's going to be crucial.
And right now, I'm looking. W is running the CC strat again. The reason, and this is kind of on the bottom side, and this is kind of something that if you're watching as a viewer, take note of. The reason why when teams run this strategy, they usually run XYs because of the speed. Right, you still got 40 minutes on this, or 40 seconds on this rally. But when you look at the timing on how much longer they need to capture that obelisk, it's 45 seconds. So it's like a 5-second difference. So what's going to end up happening is cities, unless these CCs were already here blocking TP spots, which they should have already been there, they're going to be porting in to an absolute gauntlet here in a second. And if you are a GV, you just want to get as many people as you can on that bottom side, and we're gonna see because this rally's about to hit on this bottom side obelisk here in a second.
Yeah, this is the same play they did on the last two matches. So if I feel like GV77 has done, you know, their strategy to kind of counter this because they have a lot more troops now here towards the obelisk. But then at the same time, you have to remember, more troops committed to the obelisk. Does that mean there's enough troops there to defend your desert altar? But we'll see what happens here. But people are now teleporting over on the GV77 side on the bottom obelisk now and see how W244 is going to manage this. Because it looks like they have a couple people here blocking teleports. And that can be definitely dysfunctional.
And I'm not a huge fan. Like, they're swarming with CC Hondas. I'm just not, like, I would have rather them try to block teleport spots than try to swarm this, because the CC swarm isn't going to necessarily, like, at that rate, you should have just sent XYs, because they probably would have been almost as fast and you would have gotten a lot more out of it. So, cities are already porting in. This Jad looks like she's about to hold up. The Nevsky is getting swarmed down as we speak. And it looks like GV have been practicing a little bit on how to actually take care of this. But yeah, GV held off right there. You got cities teleporting in. The only thing that you can kind of hope for is that maybe it messed up their teleport positioning. But it looks like they just took him out right now. And as the city ports in, we got 15 seconds red before these altars and shrines are going to open up. And very interesting question that you asked earlier about if they're going to be ready for these altars. And on the bottom side, there's a lot of red.
There's a lot. So they're looking good. Now let's see if we're looking at the top right of the map here. Is it going to be pretty even distribution? Shrine of Life was taken. GV77 Shrine of Life was taken by W244. But other than that, everything seems pretty even. Both altars are being contested right now. But it looks like, you know, 77 is doing what they need to do to make sure that, you know, the match starts off stable. Especially with how aggressive W244 has been in the past.
I'm looking topside right now on that desert altar, and I will tell you that W244 wiped them. Like, that is one of the quicker desert altars that I've seen where they have just cleared people out. You're already seeing them progress forward, you know, and the shrine's already getting swarmed down. So, you know, they're doing their occupation thing on top side to kind of mitigate what was happening on the bottom. But we're going to keep our eyes on it. I see a Guan garrison down here on the bottom side desert altar for GV. So you definitely can't have that happening. But it looks like they're about to clear them out and should be set to, yeah, they just flipped it. Yeah.
With the amount of presence that 77 had there, that shouldn't have been a thing. You know, in my opinion, again, you know, with a lot of pressure going on and totally understandable, and it looks like they're starting to rotate mid. Hopefully they have full marches going to the mid, which it looks like the players who are going do. But with that many players around, but that should have been a good hold. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and I just saw on that altar as we were watching, and there was a Zenobia that was actually swarming that structure, and now the Zenobia is gone because it was swarming when it should have just pulled back, right? You had all those marches for GV sitting there swarming. You don't need your garrison because now, as you see right now, if the Zenobia would have just stayed alive, she would have been in that desert altar to garrison. And, you know, now they're going to have to wait another couple of minutes because they're going to have to refresh. And as we see the GV, there's the Jad getting swarmed down the desert altar now too. It just looks a little bit discombobulated down there on the bottom side, a little flustered. We'll see if they can regroup and reset because we are about to get into the rotation towards mid. So this timing could not be any worse for GV and this desert altar on the bottom side.
I completely agree with you, man. Like those little basic fundamentals. I wonder how that Discord call is going right now. But I'm sure that, you know, we're still with about 49 minutes left in the match, 5 minutes left until the first arc spawns. For those who know, it's 3,000 points. They have time to adapt, but they need to fix that right away to make this game close and pull out a victory. So we'll see. But GV77 definitely has a presence in the middle, much more than the W244. So maybe those marches, Bobo, just went to the middle instead.
You know, and that's the tricky part, right? Because it all becomes about timing. You know, at the time, normally your team would have already been set. You got your first occupation. So if they neutralize it, you're okay. And you can start rotating. Now you still got 2 minutes left before you capture this desert altar. If your opponent sets a rally, they neutralize. Like this could get stringed along so far. And that's why you're seeing that deficit that you're seeing right now with W being in the lead by 1,000 points. Part of that has to do with this Desert Altar on the bottom side still has not been captured.
Yep.
And still has a minute 30 before it is even captured. And we have what, 3.5 minutes before this first arc's gonna spawn. And I do like that GV came a little earlier. I am seeing W rally pretty. They're rallying pretty hardcore towards middle. So we're gonna keep our eyes on those structures and see if we're gonna see any flipping as we work towards our first arc.
Yeah, and it looks like that bottom Shrine of Life has been contested by W244. Even though the points are not a whole lot, you know, that's points. You know, so the longer they let W244 prevent them from happening, you know, those little things can matter because I think each match, round 1 and round 2, were both within 5,000 points of each other. So, you know, that's one arc and some points. So like that's huge. So every little detail matters. And as I said that, Bobo, the top Sky Altar for GV77 was just flipped by W244.
Yeah.
And again, if you look at it, W244 have barely any marches around there, and they're surrounded by red. So I felt like that should have been hold as well. But hey, we'll see, man. We'll see what they can do to adapt.
You know, and I was watching that literally as you were saying that, and once again, the garrison captain was swarming the structure and got melted before they flipped the structure, but their garrison captain died in the process of swarming. So now you're back in that same realm of, hey, well, how are we going to hold now? We're going to have to march across the entire map for a new garrison because you wanted to swarm the structure. So it's just little micro optimizations that are doing it. When you watch those bigger teams, in Horus and Anubis and that kind of stuff, you are rarely going to see garrison captains forming structures just because of the amount of time it takes and effort to march across the map in order to, you know, do your role, you know what I mean, and garrison that structure. So but we got a minute 45 red before this first arc. What should we be kind of looking for and kind of expecting?
Before I get to that point, but when we were talking about the garrison marching up, I was like, I wonder if anybody's using a full windswept on a Zenobia to get there.
Oh Lord.
But I don't know if that will really work out, in my opinion, when it comes down to defending. But Boba, for this mid fight, like as I mentioned earlier in the match, like I'm really interested to see which of these teams are using that Joan, the war drums, and like, because I think when it comes to the mid fight, it's all about the number of skills that are popping off at the same time in that giant murder ball, and the coordination. And as we're saying that, GV77 is posturing forward, and I think that we're going to see an engagement within the next 10 to 15 seconds, where we're going to see, as usual, because of the amount of energy you have, war drums and mystical formation on both sides. And it's going to come down to the coordination of the teams of who's going to be targeting better, who has a better march compositions, and clearing out the field much faster.
There was some interesting, and I hadn't seen this in a very long time, in the 1021 versus 1v match. Both teams actually, and it looked funny because it was like they were countering their counter, right? Mm-hmm. Neither one of them used hard push at the beginning so that they could pop Heaven's Grace into the death on the first arc. But I know that both of these teams did use hard push, so we won't see that. But just the ability of being able to counter those teams, as you were saying, and just to take note, your skill calls were elite right there, as the two teams start to battle. But just skill usage in middle is very, very important, Red.
I agreed. And the one thing though too, I think that can be very detrimental for a mid fight is that everybody should be focused at the same time in terms of when to strike, because you know, with if your 5 marches not doing anything, it doesn't help the murder ball. And I saw on the side of W244, unfortunately, that some people were kind of late to the engagement, and not because they were still marching forward, like they were just sitting in the ball, either paying attention to something else. But when they say go, you should be going, because again, those skills and those 5 marches will be huge to contribute to the massive damage that happens in this murder ball. GV77 did a great job. I saw everybody engaged at the same time, stuck in a tight murder ball, where you got 2244, unfortunately has some people in the back still going, oh, didn't hear the call. So hopefully that won't be a huge detriment. But what I'm seeing, Bova, there's a lot of blue faces going back.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's about who's picking the arc up. And W's, they're pulling it, right? Like, we talk about stall strategies a lot, you know, when it comes to like the amount of sad faces going out truly is from W. But if GV isn't picking up the arc, right, it really doesn't really matter. But as we say that, like a horde of sad faces is dumping out right now.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, I felt like GV looked a little bit more coordinated. They did invest going in a little earlier, which is why they lost those structures. But as we say that, you know what I mean? Like GV, the team winning the arc is also the team that's losing by 1,300 points. So, they really did invest, and that's kind of the payoff for arc. If you're able to win it, is that huge surge of points that gets automatically dumped into your score. Which is the power of arc. We call it Arc of Osiris. They call it Arc of Osiris for a reason, because it is that important, right? It can make or break a game. If you keep every other aspect decently close, this kind of puts you over the top. And as we're looking right now, and as you said, 3,000 points for this first arc, and it looks like it's going in favor of GV.
Look how many marches are still there for GV. Like, there's a couple yellows, but there's a good amount of white marches. Like, either they showed up late or they were just like, they cleared them out so fast, no damage is inflicted. But now with the first arc lost on the side of W244, they're gonna be pushing hard on these structures, and I'm really looking forward to see like them kind of resetting, and then kind of, okay, we need to stabilize and get these structures back under our control and maintain that occupation. And on the left side here, we do see a Shrine of Life rally coming on the side of W244 with some marches there to support. But we got GV77 there as well, ready to counter that.
Yeah, and watching GV's movement, this is like just micro picking, right? We're picking at hairs at this point. I'm not a huge fan of when teams go backwards unless their opponent is being the aggressor and pushing forward.
Agreed.
Does that make sense?
No, that's a good. I agree.
And GV rotated on both lanes, went backwards, and on this bottom side, there is literally nobody there. So they just marched all the way backwards for no reason when they probably could have marched forward and kept the pressure on their opponent. So that's just a little micro optimization that I think that they need to look at for the future for sure as they continue to grow. The need, and I'll ask you here in a minute, kind of what your thoughts are on. I know some teams insist on rotating back towards their spots. Some are constantly going forward. I know TR did that a lot. Going forward and just keeping the pressure on. Kind of what are your thoughts on, you won the arc, right? You're rotating after you've won the arc. What are your initial thoughts, Red? What do you think teams should be focusing on?
I think the most important thing is knowing when to rotate. I think first off, like me as a player, if we do secure the arc, you'll know way ahead of time, right? Most teams have overwatches, and what I mean by overwatches are people who are not actually part of the game, like in the game, but they're people who can view the match and watch from overhead, kind of watch all specific lanes. And usually we rely on people to tell us, hey, okay, you guys are winning mid, go start rotating. So you'll see us rotating way early when even the opponent still has marches coming in. But I think in terms of going forward or backward, it really depends. Most of the time we go forward, because if we can contend with those marches that we have left, we can contend the Shrine of War or the altar, because we should be timing a rally at the same time to kind of hit that. But I believe forward is probably the most appropriate, because again, at the end of the day, the amount of time it takes for you to send your marches back, or you can just send it forward, get them killed off on that structure and die, and then get pushed back is more important. Because if you send marches forward, you can swarm that structure. You may not win it, but you're reducing the amount of troops in there. And then when by the time a rally hits and those other forces who died earlier in the mid can move forward, it might be easier to take the structure. So I think forward is probably the best bet, unless you're protecting the arc.
Yeah, and I do like that that analysis for sure, because that's amazing for viewers to be able to understand. Like most marches that are going through mid, for that initial fight are going to be red and yellow by the time you get out. So the need to go backwards is actually helping your opponent. And like you said, swarming those structures, yes, you're going to kill them off, but they're serving a purpose. They're serving a role, in like you were saying. But I think on a couple of situations when you're having to protect a contested arc, then there may be a need to rotate backwards. But for the most part, I do agree with you. Going forward is usually the advice that I would normally give, just because of keeping up the momentum, the pressure, like structures, like map positioning is huge in this game. So just being able to do that. But as we're seeing right now, W244 is applying pressure on that bottom side desert altar, starting to swarm down this Jad. and that's due in part to, you know, them giving up that momentum, that pressure that we were talking about. So, you know, they are pushing really heavy on this bottom side as they still lead by 19 or 1600 points. Apologies. And you know, it's gonna be interesting. Do you think they should hold this arc? Did they hold? How many arcs were in the last game?
Yeah, 3. There was 3 arcs.
3?
So
Okay.
they held for a little bit, but they allowed 3 arcs to happen, Bo, and there was plenty of time for that third arc too. So, and the third arc was heavily contested by W244, even though GV77 clearly had it on their side. They kept going for it, man. So I think on the side of 77, their mid game is superb right now. I say turn it in and then let the showdown happen in the middle, in my opinion, because I feel very confident in their ability to continue to maintaining arcs based on what I've seen last match and what I saw for the first arc.
Yeah, and I saw them try to pull a little play down here on that bottom side obelisk. They did initially take it, and it looks like they're trying to swarm it to kind of sneak it, but I don't think these marches are going to have enough juice in order to take that down. But it's I always love seeing those kinds of plays. I know TR pulled one this season too, and man, those are always killer. It's so fun. But yeah, man, you know, the match is coming down to it. You know, they're still up almost by 2K. So GV is at some point going to have to look at figuring out, you know, because we do know that W244's occupation is very good. You know, some of the old players from 411 are in here, and are very good. So it's going to be, they've always been very strong with that. I think their mid game is where you might be able to play. And so I'm looking for GV to kind of take advantage of that moving forward.
Yep. And with that, the arc has just been scored by GV77. They now have the lead of about 1,000 points, 1,100. So we're gonna see a second arc here in the next 8 minutes, Boba. So I don't know if they heard me, but I feel like 77 is confident in their ability, even though the arc was contested at, you know, on their home base. I still think that their capabilities and their confidence is showing by turning that arc in.
Yeah, and I do like that because if there's a team that you really don't want to just have 2 arcs with, it's a team like W244. The reason being is that first one has minimal skills because, like we were talking about, you're using hard push initially, so your skill bar is already a little used. So we usually only see the standard mystical formation war drums kind of scenario. In the second one, more teams are going to have full skill bars by time the arc spawns, so you're going to be looking at more to the death, Heaven's Grace, and by them not holding it a tremendous amount of time, that's going to reduce the amount of skills they're going to get popped in mid. So if you're able to counter your opponent, you might have a better shot at being able to sneak one in the second arc. And I really do think if W244 really wants to try to pull this out, they are going to need the second one for sure, because GV is looking real strong in the middle. And I'm interested to see kind of what they're going to use to counter that.
Yep, I completely agree, because I thought I would see a little difference in the arc fight for this round, because last round was brutal, man. GV77 wiped the field with them on all 3 arcs, and I kind of saw that similar activity in this first round. So by GV77 turning in this early, you know, because again, I think all the ratchets that me and you have casted previously, you know, a lot of teams are holding on to these arcs.
Yeah.
But GV77 turned it in quick, and even though the map is blue, it's very blue, Bobo, with all 4 altars in position of at W244. If there's 3 arcs, man, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but you never know. I've seen comebacks come out like crazy with no arcs being controlled, so we'll see what W244 can pull out the bag to, I guess, keep the game close.
Yeah, and that's kind of the misleading part that we always talk about, right? We're like, oh man, blue's dominating, like we think the occupation is going to be insane, but then we always, like, as a viewer, you got to remember, if it's neutral, nobody is scoring, right? Until that timer, that countdown hits 0, you aren't scoring any points. So if you're able to get 3 arcs but neutralize and keep a lot of structures neutral, what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow that huge point jump. Unless your opponent is actually capturing and holding those altars, that is when the real increase starts coming. As we look right now, it's still 1K lead, which is not a huge deficit, especially as our arc scores start increasing and increasing. This one's going to be worth 3,500 points. We're already under 5 minutes. I do like what I'm seeing from W244 already being the aggressor and showing up early. So they are starting to slowly posture forward. I've never been a huge fan of this side tactic, just because I think a lot of teams are starting to catch on to why teams do it. So they just reposition themselves, and then that way it doesn't split their team.
Exactly.
And I think that's it. I think in hindsight, it kind of doesn't hurt your team, but when it comes to kind of movement and targeting, I think it slows down and delays. And those microseconds usually they'll come, when it comes to targeting and stuff like that. But Red, I wanted to ask you, in mid games, I know most teams aren't making callouts, right? Because everybody has an XY, everybody has a Guan, everybody has a typical breakoff. But should some of these teams be focusing on specific marches in mid? Like, are there marches that you as a aggressive player would target first?
Yeah, I mean, so like for our teams, like we have specific marches that are dictated. Like, hey, these are the primary targets you should focus on first, which is two specific individual marches, which is XYs first, and then you go to Guans, because their capabilities of reducing defense and silencing is huge in these kind of fights. So those are always automatic targets. And if you have everybody coordinated to do that same, I guess, targeting method, imagine what 30 players, 5 marches each, targeting one single Guan. Again, like it's just game breaking. It's just that's what you need to do. And then going back to your other point, Boba, about like the positioning, I agree too. I'm not really a fan of this, especially on the side of W244, because like, yeah, they're pushing forward, but it doesn't really do anything. And also it takes a lot longer for your team to get to the murder ball. I mean, I could say the same thing for GV77, but they're a little closer, right? So like here, W244 has a longer delay of getting their troops in. And right now, if 77 pushed in, which I feel like they should in the next maybe 15 seconds, it could be to a disadvantage of W244.
Yeah, and I've never liked, because it always delays like when you're running around structures, it's very finicky sometimes, where it's like, it's like, so running a straight line is going to always be a whole lot easier than having to dance around a structure. But, and I do like what you were talking about when you were saying the XYs and targeting methods, because then I immediately went to, okay, well, if you ran a 10-21 combo, right, and they replaced their XYs with Jones, like where are we going? Where are we going with this?
No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
The mid game combos are always kind of a game within a game to see kind of what teams are using and kind of how you're going to adapt and counter. If they're very offensive combos, are you going to use to the death? Or are you playing for survivability and going Heaven's Grace? Or kind of which way are you swinging? And I don't know if it's me, but does this W244 murder ball look so much? Maybe it's a little more spread.
It's a lot
I'm not
chunkier.
sure.
I completely agree. But we'll see. We'll see if GV77 do some trimming here. But one thing I mentioned to you, Bob, was that we were talking about the targeting method. A lot of teams now, especially the elite teams like 10-21 specifically, they have the XYs in their murder balls, right? He's a great commander. You should use him definitely. But they know they get targeted first. And what I've seen a lot of them do is that when the fights happen in the middle, when your troops getting targeted, right? You see a little icon on the right that you're getting targeted. They just drag their XY back out behind the murder ball. So a lot of, especially in this big fight, it's hard to control marches, right? Hard to select troops and target them. So usually a lot of people target them first and then just let them go. But if you're a person who's smart enough, you'll move your XY and pull it back. So you got 5 marches just chasing you, and everybody else is just targeting those 5 marches. It's very, very smart that I've seen a lot of players be doing with those kind of little basic fundamentals, man.
Yeah. And I've also seen them use Joan, where they actually have her. If you go and watch some of their old stuff, they actually leave their Jones in the outside, like the outskirts. They don't dump Jones into the middle. They actually fight on the outskirts so that they live a lot longer and don't get focused as hard. But as we get into this mid brawl, Red, man, like you said, GV dove in. You know, they dove into the pool, and man, they were swimming out there, bro.
Agree, and I saw To the Death popped. I believe Heaven's Grace was also popped as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Boba, but you know the key skills are being popped here. So with that investment, who's going to come out on top here? And I am seeing some stat bases again coming on the side of W244 early on. So we'll see, because this is a make or break, in my opinion, for W244 to stay in this game.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I noticed, and this is us getting like, you know, is getting nitpicky because we're pulling hairs at this point. I was very surprised at how early they popped Heaven's Grace. They popped Heaven's Grace as after like the second person engaged. And that's really one of those skills that you want to engage a little bit and then pop it, right? You don't want to pop it right off the rip when you aren't even engaging. You really kind of want to be in the tussle and bustle. And then you kind of pop it to allow some healing, because what are you going to heal if you're fully if you're a fully healthy March, you know?
Agreed. And because of that, Bobo, do you think that was huge? Because I believe GV77 was the ones who popped To the Death. So that Heaven's Grace, was it a waste? Because right now I'm seeing it right now. There's nothing to heal. They're all dead.
Yeah.
GV77 has secured the second arc, and they are posturing backwards, kind of, I guess, protecting the arc and not moving forward. So hey, I mean, it's working for them. But in my opinion, I think they should have moved forward to kind of contest those structures. But at the end of the day, this is the championship round. So your strategy is your strategy. And good luck to you both. But GV77 is securing the second arc, Boba, with full force.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now again. Let's see, they're rotating backwards again for GV. That top side has literally nobody once again. So these are these little movements, like we said. They're rotating back to an empty field with half-dead marches. The bottom side, on the other hand, does have pressure this time, so it does make sense to rotate back on this front. But this is what you normally would see, right? As a team, if you lost mid-game, once you get all your marches back, you're instantly resetting and resending forward to try to reapply pressure to force them to have to go backwards. But if your opponent is not going to go and push forward, there is no need for you to go backwards, because all they did was just march. They spent an extra minute and a half marching backwards to march exactly where they would have been if they would have just gone forward and saved a minute and a half. So that's just little micro. As I see a Constantine Garrison, hello, topside desert altar. But yeah, man, it's just a little micro, but GV cleaning up right now, Red.
Yeah, they are cleaning up, like on the right side of the map. Yeah, you know, that backward, I guess, rotation looks like it does benefit, because again, they're meeting those W244 marches up front to kind of reduce their health. So contesting that Shrine of War will be difficult. But then you're looking at the Desert Altar side, that could have helped as well too on the bottom side, because look at now, W244 has a strong force moving in, but GV77 definitely had troops there, even though they're half health, to contest that. So maybe that was the right play. And maybe it was.
Yeah, and it looks like they're contesting the arc right now. So we're gonna see. There's a couple of marches that looks like they're trying to sneak by. But when you don't have anywhere to take it, you know, it's kind of a problem.
It's a big problem, right? And I know that W244 have been contesting the obelisk multiple times on that bottom side, but have not been successful. So GV77 is doing a great job, man, at really countering all the things that W244 is doing and maintaining the occupation. I still think that W244 will have a slight advantage in the occupation scoring, but not enough to counter these arcs that are being captured by 77.
You know, and that's where it comes down. You know, it's the point surge. You know, if you're W244, you're not out of the game. You still got 25 minutes. You know, it's going to be hard to capture a third one unless GV kind of gives it to him and throws him a layup. You know what I mean?
Throws him an assist.
Just throws him an assist, you know, on an own goal. You know, World Cup shout out. But you know, if they held it for 15 minutes, you got an 8-minute timer that leaves you about 2.5 minutes to capture. It's still a doable thing, but it's going to be very hard. So if you're W, you really just want to focus on these structures, try to hold as many altars as humanly possible for as long as possible. You got 25 minutes to really kind of ramp up that occupation, because that is literally, that and provisioning is going to be the only thing that will bring you back in this game.
Yep. And right now, if you look at the scoring, it's very even. It's 560 to 590 in the points per minute game. However, GV77 has a slight lead. Oh, I mean, by me saying that, it looks like a Shrine of Life was taken by W244, so they technically have the lead now in occupation points per minute, but it's only 50 points, Boba. They need to really make this change now to really stay in the game. Because when this arc's turned in, my friend, it's going to be very, very difficult, and they have to get that third arc.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised by W2 that them not sending more. Okay, and as I was thinking that these outposts are starting to slowly flip, I was surprised that they're not already at least sending a rally to try to break off and then kind of start swarming a couple of these outposts just to keep them neutral. Because at the end of the day, if you're W, you don't want your opponent to be scoring a free 240 points per minute. That is almost an altar in itself, you know, just freely sitting there if you're not able to neutralize them. So kind of reducing those points per minute to kind of reel them in. They are down by 1,000, but that next arc's 3,500. So you're assuming you're under by 4,500 points. So just trying to at least cut that in half is going to be a huge deal within the next probably like 10, 12 minutes for sure.
Agreed. And man, like that Desert Altar defense on the side of GV77 has been looking great. Again, W244 is super aggressive. They have the troops, they have the commanders, they have the gear. It's just that 77, man, is just doing everything right, in my opinion. Especially with these arcs, man. Like, and right now, what they just did, they reset the timer of the arc where they kind of jumped into a caravan bulba, and then they kind of reset the timer. So now on the top left is about 13 minutes until the next one. So my thought is, are they gonna hold to not have a third arc?
If the other team didn't pick it up, it just resets back where it was originally. So you got the 10 minutes left between the timer and when it's gonna reset, but you still got an 8-minute timer that counts down. So it'll leave us like 2.5, 3 minutes left for that final one that will have to be contested. And so that's, you know, it's one of those, as fast as these mid games have been going though, 2.5 minutes might just be enough. You know, these aren't really lingering on. Like most people are getting melted in the first 45 seconds of those fights. So there's still a chance.
Agreed.
So you're saying there's a chance,
Yes,
right?
You're saying there's a chance. Oh man, and like W244, if you look at the bottom sign Desert Altar, you know, they're setting rallies. It looks like they have a Nevsky Joan most likely come and hit this rally. They have some support, but there's so much 77 on that side that can be so easily contested. You know, like and the thing that, you know, when you're setting a rally to support, you're setting troops to support, you should be really engaging those 77 traders up front to at least get them down to red. Because right now you're going to be sending your marches to swarm the structure. You're just getting swarmed down by half full marches that are definitely going to be a detriment to your troops. So W7 is doing anything right, and I feel like W244 should definitely be more aggressive engaging the open field troops of 77 before engaging this rally. But we'll see, man. Oh, Boba, as I said, that obelisk in the bottom left side was taken by W244. Is there going to be a sneak play going on here? Because I was gonna say, if they took that obelisk and took that arc and scored it, that would have been huge.
I'm looking right now. Yeah, they just took it. They have a Saladin garrison. Should get swarmed down. But the other thing that I want to take note on, and this is just an observation that I noticed from the first match compared to now, and you can kind of tell me if it was the same for second game. I noticed that the rally combos, that was one of the advice pieces that we gave them after week 1.
Yeah.
For GV, when they were sending all those Pakal Herald rallies. I have not seen a Pakal Herald rally since then. So
Agreed.
I'm seeing Archer rallies. I'm seeing a lot of Cav. And so we did say that was probably one of the biggest things that they needed to clean up. And it looks like GV has cleaned it up, and it's paid dividends for sure in their gameplay.
Yeah, that because the Pakal rallies don't do enough damage, man. They're great against a swarm. I mean, if you get swarmed, because again, everyone's gonna be swarming rallies down as they're hitting their objectives. And Pakal is definitely counter that, but there's not enough damage there, man, to really take the structure. So I'm really glad to see that both teams actually are not sending out these Pakal rallies and are actually really putting in rallies that do enough damage, because we're seeing a lot of structure flip back and forth and being contested heavily, instead of like as I say, two Richards fighting, one-on-one for 45 minutes, for 5 minutes. So really glad to see that, these kind
for
of plays they made.
supremacy.
Yeah. If you guys, if you're OGs like us, if you don't remember, Richards were OP back in the day, and they still are in early game. But when you two Richards were fighting, you could literally turn off the game and come back an hour later, and they're still fighting. So, glad to see there's some changes here.
Oh man, and that's what makes me excited, right? Is teams are watching and adapting according to their tapes and kind of what's working and not working, and that's ultimately what you want to do, right? To get better as a team, and it looks like it's paying dividends. Their mid game's looking stronger with some of the combos. If you compare game one to where we're at now, you can see the growth for both of these teams just exponentially. And then when it comes to structure game, knowing what to swarm with, not swarm with, like it looks like night and day from cast one to where we're at right now.
Agreed.
You would not be able to tell me these teams are not in Anubis just based on the combos and kind of movement of what they're doing. But we are in Bastet. One of these two teams, Red, is about to get crowned a champion. And as we say that, Red, they throw them an absolute layup, bro. Oh no.
Yeah, the arc was turned in.
They threw him an absolute layup. Oh, they should have just held it.
I think so too. I think the safe route would have been to hold it. I'm trying to think on the side of GV77. They've been very confident in the middle. Are they trying to say, you know what? Let's finish it strong with a third arc because we know we're gonna take it, or?
But you don't need it. See, that's the trick.
Yeah,
you don't even need it.
And there's 10 minutes left. I get it. It could have been because the obelisk was taken in the bottom left and there were some marches there. That could have been a thing, and been safe to turn it in. But we'll see, man. We'll see if W244 does secure this third arc and score it and take the win. That could have been it, man. But we'll see. We'll see because I thought with was it 21 minutes left when when we were talking about it, that gives a good solid 10 minutes for W244 to truly come back into this game, because right now it's only fast math, Boba, 1,800 points.
26. Math is hard.
Dude, math is hard, chat. Math is hard. Math is very hard. But
guys, it like what Red's saying, it confidence. But at the end of the day, all you want is the W, right? I don't like. You went from giving them 2.5 to 3 minutes to try to capture an arc to 10 minutes to capture an arc. Like that is a long contested arc if you over invest in middle. Like that's making it a little bit harder on yourselves, especially with how well W's looked in occupation. Like that's the only thing that I could think of, is that maybe they're worried about occupation. And to kind of set them off and remove the pressure. But man, we're going to see if that's going to come back to bite them, because they are only up by literally 2,400 points, Red.
Yep.
And that next arc is going to be worth 4,000 points, which, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking at provisioners, but there's provisioners on both sides. So W244, I don't know if you saw, they popped Insatiable Desire. So we're gonna see if that's gonna make a difference here when the provisioning score comes up. So but I definitely see both sides provisioning very well at the moment. So we'll see. Man, there's 15 minutes left, but I don't know, man. This is too close. This is less than 3,000 points. That's math for you guys right there in the community. Got it close. But again, W244 is doing the same posturing, and GV77 doing the same thing, man. So. Right now, I know to the death. I believe both were popped on both sides, or I don't know. But did you see GV77 pop it?
It was 1-1. It was Heaven's Grace and then to the death popped 1-1. So depending on how much time they may have for one more rotation of it, but I believe it was GV that popped Heaven's Grace, which. And then to the death was popped by W. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I would rather, if you're coming into the third arc, I would rather have Heaven's Grace. If, and this is the big if you pop it properly, it will hard counter to the death.
Yep.
you know, a majority of the time. If you pop it early, then it's not going to be as effective.
You're
But
not
if
healing
you,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, you're not healing anything. So if you properly utilize the skill of Heaven's Grace, you will effectively neutralize to the death. You just need to have the bodies there, which W already, like both teams are, we're looking in middle right now with 4 minutes. Both teams are dumping in mid. And it's going to come down to skill usage, truly, because most of these teams are using the same marches.
Yep.
So I'm going to be very interested to see what skills each one's going to pop in mid.
Man, this is going to be. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I mean, right now as we're talking, W244 has only one altar. Looks like 77 took one of their altars. So the points per minute game, it should be in favor of GV77, which it is by only 120 points. So everyone, the call has been made that everyone needs to be in the middle. But they got somebody sneaking on the side of GV77 and taking structures. Man, right now GV77 is doing everything right. So this moment right here for W244 is going to be the defining moment. Are they going to go home second place, or are they coming home champions? So really need to see this arc coming from inside of W244, because if not, GV77 will be the victors here.
Yeah, it's truly, even with the points looking the way that they are, you know, some teams might automatically think GV is going to take this. Guys, it's a 4,000 point arc, and the opponent that isn't scoring the arcs is actually better at occupation than GV. So you really don't want to be playing with that smoke. And as we're saying that right now, a couple of these altars are flip-flopping, so that is helping with the point. And GV owns the points per minute by 120, but it is not by an exponential amount. As the arc's going to spawn in 2.5 minutes, Red.
It's anybody's game, Boba.
It's anybody's game.
Here we go. So, okay, so GV
dude,
did pop
so
to this.
early.
W244 with the war drums. We got Mystical inside of GV77. Same thing for
Wait for it.
W244.
Wait for it. Do they have it? They better have it.
No, Boba, if you can see in the screen, if you look in the middle, there's some W244 people just standing still in the middle. Like, because usually when you're targeting something, right, you're going that circular motion. I don't see a whole lot of them moving. Unless the game is just laggy, because, you know, it happens. But
Yeah, everyone's dying right now. It's a matter of they didn't use Heaven's Grace, bro. Oh man.
maybe W244 was the ones who did it in the second round. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but without that counter to the death is just absolutely elite. You know, it's a must. It's a must have.
Minute and 15 seconds left, chat. Arcs of spawn, 11 minutes left in the match. 11 minutes to know who is the champion of the Bastet realm. Whose shrine is going to be in the middle ground next season. This is the defining moment right here for both teams.
Yeah, and now we're kind of, it looked like W was losing a lot more, and then Red started losing some too. So that's what makes these hard, drawn out battles hard. You are going to see a second surge at some point. Because you know that you're going to need it if you're W244. And so it's kind of like, you know, you're going to have to invest. So even if they lose, you're going to see these marches. Oof. And as we say that, so many blue faces going out.
Oh man. 77 just wiping the field. They need this arc. So that cost you made saying everybody go mid. 13 seconds, arc comes up. Like, look at, there's, that GG's, man, in my opinion. I don't know. That's rough, man. That's heartbreaking. But amazing for GV77, though. But, like, this was needed by W244. They have to contest this, and they have to do some type of miracle play to score this.
No, just look at top side. Look at the reinforcements coming from W right now, from top side.
Everyone's coming up.
And they're bringing the house, and that's the reason why, like, some teams will have like a speed skill at certain point, like where a swift stride or something like that when you're trying to run, because now look at the flood. They're completely bypassing all these marches on the top side just to bypass and go target the arc runner. So if you're GV, you still are going to have to send marches, as we're seeing them come from the mid game. Insatiable getting popped for the second time on W. But yeah, man, it's looking It's looking nice for GV. They still got to clear out one more wave because W is going to full send. I'm not a huge fan. I know we talked about this in their match 1, right? When you start seeing those marches already pushing towards the, like you're dragging the arc, I don't like it when a lot of teams run through mid because it's kind of like a gauntlet, right? You could have run outside lane and then kind of cut them off in this choke point that we always talk about as it's about to hit that choke point. If they can get it down right here, they might have a shot. Might have a shot of stalling it. Ooh.
And the rough thing is, you have people coming in the inside lane now. You got some W244, but the tough part is like the refresh time for GV77 is so much faster. So like even if they don't score it, W244 needs to score it. You know, so like with 8 minutes is a long time, Boba. Don't get me wrong, but with that many red marches around, chances are very slim. So unless a miracle play that I hope you get to witness today happens, it's really looking rough for W244.
Yeah, and as we say that, the arc carrier is bringing it on the inside corner, which is something that we talked about them not doing the last time. But luckily this time, W does not actually have a rally, ironically, on that desert altar. Bottom side. So even if they do pick this up, they still don't have a rally set on that structure. So they don't have anywhere to take it unless they run it straight back. And as we're seeing that the arc gets dropped, so many blue marches coming in for the last push. But GV are doing what they need to do, right? They're picking up the arc. They're not allowing their opponent to pick it up because we always talk about that stall tactic where you can pick it up. Even if you die, it's still 10 seconds that they had to wait. And if you are W, that is what you need, right? You are trying to kill this arc carrier, then you're trying to pick it up. That way you can effectively start that stall tactic.
Oh, he is so close. Oh man, W244 is full sending here. But it's crazy. But as that's happening, all the altars are in the possession of GV77. They're continuing to widen that lead. Oh, 77 with the pickup again.
And that's what you can't have happen, right? You're making that play with blue. You have to have rallies because even if you were to pick this up, you had nowhere to take it, right? You needed that structure. You needed something because right now you're running in kind of the meat grinder.
Yep.
Per se, going in, they can just insta capture this because they don't need to wait with the timer being what it is. But W244 are putting in kind of the effort to try to steal this one, but it's looking real strong for the side of GV.
Yeah, because right now you got like 15 cities right next to the arc here that's being contested, so that march time is and refresh time is so easy for 77. So, and again, the field is getting wiped from blue again, and I'm commending their efforts, but it was tough, man. And that mid fight, the 3 arcs that were owned by 77, GV2244 has to kind of look back and see what they can improve for next season because they came on strong. And Strift Stride has just been popped by 77. So they're going to score this arc. Well, this arc...
but they don't even need it.
And Boba, it was scored. GG's.
Yeah,
with 5.5 minutes left. Commend W244 for all their efforts, making it this far in arc of Osiris League, but with 5.5 minutes, Boba, I don't think there's any way to come back.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a 99.3% chance.
So you're saying there's a chance? No, I'm just kidding. But at that point, the arc was it was what it was. They are who we thought they were. But it's one of those like the little micro optimizations, like the not having that high tier skill for mid game might have just costed them. You can't go in with the to the death and not have a counter for it if you're not going to even pop to the death because you will get insta melted super quick, especially with all these marches and compositions that people are bringing now. You really have to come correct when you're going to come for that second and third arc for sure.
And now it comes to that celebration. Well, on both sides where you're storming each other's cities now, is getting to that point where, man, what an amazing season, for all realms. New champions are being crowned, back-to-back champions are being crowned, and amazing metas that we've seen in the Arc of Osiris coming on with just new names popping up, man. And congratulations to all teams who made it to top 32, top 16, top 8, top 4 into the upcoming champions. If the story stays the same, because how awkward would it be, Boba, if the scores flip for some whatever reason, and I just need to shut up afterwards.
You'd be a meme. We'd be a meme.
Oh yeah, we'd be a meme 100%.
I know I had one of those moments, or no. I recorded one of those moments, and now it lives on in infamy. It was the 1341 versus 1008, bro. When they came back with the provisioning at the very end, I remember the cast, and it was just in Drago, and they're like, "The game is over," and then you see JD running in the provisions, bro, and then they win by like 100 points. I was like, "Oh no,
Dude, that was brutal." I remember that. I remember that. I think it was top 16.
Dude, I was
me.
crying. I was like, that's the kind of power that provisions used to have. It doesn't necessarily, it won't have that power today, but man, it was well, how far we've come. But for those of y'all, like we were saying, GGs, both of these teams. If you made it this far, don't put your head down, because I promise you another season of Osiris League will be coming, in the next quarter. So there's always more to be played. We have the champions competition moving forward, so keep your eyes out on there. All the champions will get locked into a bracket, and then we will start progressing to see who's going to be the champion of champions, and that should be an absolute barn burner, Red. Some of these younger teams, we're gonna see.
Oh, I completely agree, man. That with that upcoming, event, like seeing all champions contending each other in different realms is gonna be a great thing to see, especially with GT, with 1V, and then now with GV77, and then the champions of the last realm. It's gonna be really exciting to see, man. I'm really looking forward to being a part of that and checking that out. But with 2 minutes left, even though with that champion of champions coming up, we're really happy to see GV77, take one. And unfortunately for W244, but both teams put in a great amount of work, effort, and time into this match. Because again, it's not easy to get this far, and to of months of planning, months of practice, months of putting time, money into commanders and gear to get this is great. And this might be the last arc we see before the big changes are coming.
Dude, that's what makes this kind of mind blowing, right? Like, potentially thinking about next season's Osiris League could look completely different. Like and that's kind of the thing that's going to be. I'm kind of excited for it just because it's something fresh and new. But at the same token, like, that's a massive learning curve. It's a lot to learn, a lot of new strategies, which is going to be cool. Hopefully there's some new skills and stuff like that. But as we round off, Red, with the last minute, what are your final thoughts on Bastet? Because I know this is kind of our inaugural casting for this realm, the last 3 matches. But any final words on covering Bastet in our younger realms?
No, man. It was an amazing thing to see. I mean, I felt like the competition level is just up there as in Horus and Anubis. These teams did an amazing job. They're using the same elite mechanics that we're seeing in these top matches. So both teams amazing to the entire realm. I look forward to seeing what you guys bring in, new teams coming up in next season. And as Boba mentioned, with the new update coming out with, I believe, mercenaries were mentioned, Boba, gonna be occurring in Arc, which will be very different but very new and exciting and kind of scary at the same time, because it's a learning curve. But I'm really looking forward to that. But with that, Boba, the champions have been crowned for the realm of Bastet. Congratulations to GV77 and Tran as the MVP. Going to the breakdown, Boba. Sheesh, the occupation.
And like I said, it came down to that. Neutral is and that's kind of the breaker right there. We say it all the time, right? If you're not scoring points, it's not helping you, right? You can flip as many structures as you want, but if you're not scoring them, the occupation can stay as close as it was, even though we thought with W244 that they would have a much better occupation just because of the amount of pressure they had and structures they were flipping. So that's a good sight to see. and the reason why arcs are so powerful in this game mode.
Yep, and it looks like GV77 won all the categories except for provisioning. And their kills, astonishing. 20 million kills more than what W244 did. And there was some healing on the side of W244 as well. So, man, congrats to GV77 for being the champions. I'm going to tune it into Bulba for our last words right now. Me and Bulba.
Hey, I want to thank y'all, viewers, boys, girls, rockers, for hanging out with us, because truly this season 6 has been an absolute blast to cast with my boy Redline. We've done the Grand Prix, we've done the Osiris League season 6. We're going to be doing the I think it's still called the Invitational, but y'all will see very soon. They're going to have a reset and all that kind of stuff, rest period. But first of all, congratulations to all of our champions in the Horus realm, Anubis realm, Bastet, and Sobek. I look forward to seeing y'all, watching y'all compete and play. And you know, congratulations to the second place teams as well. You know, y'all worked hard to get where y'all are. Keep your heads up. There will always be another season coming soon. So I look forward to seeing a lot more teams as they advance through. And Red, you know, before we head out, I wanted to thank you, brother. It's always been a pleasure. Make sure and thank all the viewers. And don't forget, guys, subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms YouTube channel if you haven't already, to get all your Osiris League content. And don't forget to go check us out on our YouTube channels. Redlines has a game-breaking account going right now, and I love it. So go show them some love. And, you know, chat, I truly appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all very, very soon.
Chat, much love. It was an honor. Bulba, it was an honor as well, my friend. Chat, we'll see you guys on the next season or at the Champion of Champions. You guys have a great day. Like, subscribe. We'll see you guys.